At long last, we stand at the threshold of destiny. For today, we will restore the glory of our legacy. Today, we will retake what we have lost and reclaim our homeworld.
And may the Kala's light guide us.
The invasion fleet stands ready. We await only your command, Hierarch.
You must halt this invasion at once.
Zeratul?
Templar! Arrest this traitor!
No! We will hear him out.
The end war has come. Amon, the Dark One, has returned.
This heretic cannot be trusted.
This invasion is a distraction from the true battle ahead. Amon's fury will engulf the entire galaxy.
Do not forget that it was his interference that brought ruin to Ire.
And that burden weighs heavily upon me. Artanis, I have found a way to stand against the coming darkness. You must believe me.
We have been through much together, Zeratul. But far too many have sacrificed, in the hopes that this moment would come to pass. Executor, commence the invasion!
Alright, so this first mission takes place on the Protoss homeworld of Ire, and as you just heard, Zeratul is concerned that there's a bigger, badder evil to contend with. But the Protoss really just want to take back their home, so yeah, they don't really listen, and they try to do that in this first opening mission. Try being probably quite an important word there. I should point out that this gameplay was captured by Blizzard at their office, although I am the one controlling what you're watching. Thankfully for me and for the YouTube comment section, I imagine it's a very, very straightforward thing. I don't know how you could mess this up. There's not even any building to do. You're given a big bunch of units to start with, which compare that to how Wings of Liberty began, with like, you know, 4 Marines and Reyna. This is a slightly different thing, and it's supposed to be because it's supposed to feel like an invasion. It would be strange if you just did that with like a handful of zealots. And yeah, you also need to remember, I think, that Legacy of the Void will be, for some people, an introduction to the Protoss race, and for some it'll be an introduction to StarCraft II, because unlike Heart of the Swarm, the last expansion, this one can be bought and played standalone, which means you don't have to own anything StarCraft related to jump straight into Legacy. And so it needs to teach players how to play the Protoss specifically, and that's why right now it's telling me, you know, how to select all the units and how to A and then left click so they run around auto-attacking everything. And as well as that, I think it needs to show what the Protoss are all about, which is why it's giving me access to things like Colossi already and being like, aren't these cool? I don't think you get to build them for quite a while into the campaign, but right now it wants me to know that these are the toys that the Protoss will eventually have available to them. Now, as for new units, I don't think there is actually anything brand new to show off in this first mission, which is a bit of a shame because it's the only one that I can share with you at the moment. Yeah, StarCraft II players will recognise most of this already. I have played more than that though. I've played the mission directly after this, and then we jumped ahead into what I think was either mission 5 or 6, depending on in which order you selected the missions. And by that stage we were playing around with some new stuff, things like monolith towers, which are just these ridiculous long-range, slow-firing, very powerful defense structures that make proton cannons, look a bit naff. And yeah, I did get to play around some new stuff, and also specifically to the campaign, I got to see how some of the stuff outside of the missions work. So every StarCraft II campaign has had a sense of customization. First of all, you can select which order you do missions in, sure, and that helps you unlock different units at different points in the game. But also, on top of that, you get to customize those units, and that happens in the Protoss campaign by aligning them with certain factions. So with the Zealots in particular, which are those melee units at the front, the two options that I saw, one allowed them to kind of get this whirlwind ability, so that they would spin around and do damage to any enemies standing by them. I picked that because it just looked really flashy. And the other allowed them, I believe, to, you know, the dash they do when they enter combat, well, they can dash through allies, which is useful because they do tend to get, when I play anyway, trapped behind ranged units, and that can be a bit frustrating. There was also a third option which was locked at that stage, and apparently it all ties into some kind of theme of diplomacy in which you are trying to unite various factions within the Protoss race to work together, and depending on how you do that, you gain access to different unit unlocks. Yeah, that makes sense. Also, there was a slightly flashy thing going on with, by the time I got to those later missions, mission 5 or 6, whatever it was, the Protoss had access to a ship that was orbiting the planet, that whatever mission I was engaged with, and that has some support options. There's a meter that slowly fills up throughout the game, and once it gets to certain points, you can trigger things like dropping a pylon into any visible area, which, if you play Protoss before, is pretty useful. You can upgrade that as well, so when you drop the pylon, it also spawns with a few troops as well. Really, really useful. And probably the most flashy ability that I had access to was an orbital strike, which, when you activate that, the game pauses and you can choose 5 locations to hit with your orbital strike. And that can, like, you can drop extremely powerful units immediately with that. It's expensive to use. You need to, you know, wait quite a long time between that meter filling up to be able to do it again. But yeah, very, very useful when things are suddenly going bad. And yeah, that's most of the new stuff I saw. It definitely feels unique to the Protoss, but you know, there are certain themes to every StarCraft II campaign outside of the missions that this just kind of shares. Anyway, in this mission in particular, where are we up to now? We are currently in the process of clearing warp conduits, and at this point actually, I'm trying to figure out which ones are the warp conduits and which ones are actually the Zerg hives, which are the bonus objectives. Because if you played StarCraft II before, you played a campaign before, sometimes you can complete all the main objectives before you mean to, and you miss the bonus stuff. So in this mission, the bonus objectives, destroying those Zerg hives, is I think just spawning in some extra units, so a few extra reinforcements. That's because we haven't got access to that ship that I mentioned before, because later on, those bonus objectives often give you a resource which allows you to upgrade that ship with new abilities. And so, yeah, very similar to other StarCraft II campaigns. You want to do as many bonus objectives as you can, because in the long run, it really helps. As I said, it's a very, very straightforward thing. Look at this. I'm just going around with just an enormous amount of units. More units are spawning in now, like I really needed them at this stage. I get the impression that this was, yeah, Blizzard just showing off a little bit. Being like, isn't it cool when we put loads of powerful Protoss units together? I think I've accidentally created, is that a death ball? Is that what you call it when you surround your Colossi with other units? It was definitely not intentional, if so. Yeah, so my entire tactic so far has just been pressing A and then left-clicking in the direction of the objectives. But it seems to be working out alright. In fact, I was told by the producer that I was sitting with, who was kind of walking me through as I played, that I completed it in the fastest time of all the press appointments. By 1 second, which I imagine they say that to everyone, but it made me feel very smug indeed. And it's about this stage in the mission that the Protoss start to realise that something's a bit off. The Zerg are apparently more coordinated than was expected, although I'm not entirely sure what that means, because so far they have just all kind of stood around in reasonably small groups, allowing me to just walk through them with this strange death ball that I've created. But yeah, they're more coordinated, apparently. Maybe there's some kind of puppet master in the background, some kind of unseen evil. That would be unexpected, wouldn't it? I think we all knew this was coming, right? Yes, from the beginning of this mission, seeing that invasion force, and a StarCraft II campaign can't open with you outnumbering and outgunning your opponent this dramatically. It just, it doesn't. There has to be a twist. We've now just got one final warp conduit left to discover and clear. Maybe that would be a good point for a twist to take place. So yeah, this campaign, Legacy Void, has me thinking a lot about Warcraft 3. You know, the idea that by this point in the story, if you've played throughout the whole thing, you've played as all three races. You've seen them at times work together, at times fight against each other, and it's building up to this new unknown threat. Well, we know his name, but we don't really know what he's about. That sounds like a grand finale with all three races working together, right? Reyna's Terran Force, Kerrigan's Zerg, and whatever remains of the Protoss after this, fighting against these kind of things, hybrids, which are a mix of Zerg and Protoss, and they glow a bit, and everyone's rather concerned about them. Yeah, I don't think it's a huge gamble to say that we may see some kind of, some kind of mission structure in which all three races work together, and it has dramatic music, and maybe there's a world tree, or a life tree, or whatever it was in Warcraft 3. I think I'd be alright with that. I think that's actually exactly what we all need from StarCraft 2, because this, although it isn't the end for StarCraft 2, of course, this game has a multiplayer scene that's going to live on for years. This is the end of the StarCraft 2 campaign.
The warp conduits have been secured. Our starfighters are moving to take this fight across the surface.
Take command of the invasion, Executor. Zeratul, you and I must discuss this most recent turn of events further.